Check, 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 check. 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Check, check, check. Check 1 2 1 2 3. Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2 3. 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2 3. Check 1 2.
So he's the court reporter, and I just last time he said he has some issues with the mic, so I just want to make sure that he's able to hear.
Okay.
He's the yeah. So hopefully you could.
Check, check. 1 2 1 2.
Can you hear that?
1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Good. All right.
Okay.
Perfect. Cool. Thank you.
All right, we're going to start in 1 minute. If everyone could grab a seat, wrap up your conversations, and we'll get ready to start our meeting in 1 minute. Welcome. We're so glad to have you here tonight. Thank you so much. My name is Bill Cutler. I'm the district engineer here in Northern Virginia. Welcome to VDOT's Northern Virginia District Office, and thank you for taking the time to engage with us about our shared transportation system. The Commonwealth of Virginia Code requires an annual joint meeting for the following agencies: the Commonwealth Transportation Board, Virginia Department of Transportation, the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation, the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission, the Virginia Railway Express, and recently the code was amended to include the National Capital Region Transportation Planning Board. This meeting is streamed online, and a recording of it will be linked on the Northern Virginia Joint Transportation Meeting webpage. The community can share comments with our panel in verbal testimony today. And we're not answering questions today during the meeting. This is a listening session for this panel. But we have had some time out in the hallway and the lobby, and there'll be some time after this to do that as well. So no questions during this listening session. But again, you can share comments with our panel in this verbal testimony today or in writing until November 3rd. We'll send a summary of comments to all of these agencies by early December. As you can see, none of us on this panel are strangers to one another. That's because every day we work collaboratively on projects that improve the lives within our community. Our collective multimodal projects make it possible for drivers to also be pedestrians, for cyclists to also be transit users, and so on. To us, no one is just a label when using our regional transportation system. We actively work in a partnership model because in a region as diverse as ours, none of us can, nor do we want to, operate in a vacuum. Our collective work is interwoven, and decades of successful project delivery has shown that partnerships work. We look forward to continuing that tradition with current and future projects and welcome your continued engagement with us. I want to take a moment to recognize the panel members up here with me, and we'll hear from them in just a moment. But first, just to recognize them. From the Commonwealth Transportation Board, Member at Large Urban, Randy Minshew. From the Department of Rail and Public Transportation, the Director Tiffany Robinson. From the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, Chief Executive Officer Monica Bachman. From the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission, Executive Director Kate Mattice. From the Virginia Railway Express, Acting CEO Dallas Richards. And from the Transportation Planning Board, Chair Walter Alcorn. My microphone here, it's still on. Okay, I'd also like to take a moment to recognize some elected officials that are in the audience. The chair of the Prince William County Board of Supervisors, DeShandra Jefferson. Thank you. Senator Danica Roem. Thank you. Delegate Delaney. Thank you so much. Loudoun County Supervisor Turner is here as well. Thank you. And from Senator Boysko's office, Karen Harrison. So thank you for being here. We'll hear from some of those folks in a moment. Are there any other elected officials here who I have not identified who would like to stand up and introduce yourself? All right. Well, thank you. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take a moment to hear from each of our panel members before we begin the listening session. So I think for ease, I'm just going to start at one end and we'll pass the microphone down. So TPB Chair Alcorn.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. As Chief District Engineer Cutler said, I'm Walter Alcorn. I have the pleasure and honor of chairing the Washington Regional Transportation Planning Board for all of about 3 months, starting last Wednesday. And for those of you that don't know, I think everyone in this room probably does, that is a regional body composed of officials from Virginia, Maryland, and the District of Columbia. So TPB does have a unique role as a coordinator and facilitator and has a tagline, Think Regionally, which really does underscore its mission. Another key role is that of technical assistance provider to support our cities and counties with their own planning and project development. TPB's goals, which each member is advancing at the local level, inform the programs and projects that Fairfax County, which I also serve on the Board of Supervisors for, and other Northern Virginia localities prioritize. As many transportation systems, safety is the top goal. And as of 2023, total crashes are down and serious injuries have declined, although fatalities have increased. Intersections are where most crashes are occurring in this region, and speed is the second highest factor. Local governments are focusing on improvements, including crosswalks, lighting, automated enforcement, and speed management, so we can move forward and move that fatality rate in the right direction, and that's towards zero. Maintenance, reliability, affordable, and convenient travel are also among the goals of TPB. Efficient system operations, environmental protection, and bolstering resilience are additional goals. And each of these goals serve as foundations for the final goal, supporting livable and prosperous communities. So the primary TPB action this fall will take place in December, and that's the approval of Visualize 2050. That's the National Capital Region Transportation Plan. The FY 2026 through 2029 Transportation Improvement Program, and the Regional Air Quality Conformity Analysis. These are things required under federal law, and this follows a 30-day public comment period that begins this Thursday, October 23rd. So I'd like to emphasize that Visualize 2050 is a multimodal plan, and it forecasts more trips by shared rides, transit, and alternative modes than in the past, than ever, and reflecting TPB's overarching planning and investment priorities. And as TPB chair, I look forward to working with all the jurisdictions and all the officials on this project during the next couple of months. So thank you very much. And I'll just hand it off to my left to CTB at-large member, Mr. Minshew.
Thank you, Walter. Good evening. I'm Randy Minshew, and I think that's working. I'll get it put it closer. I am the urban at-large member serving on the CTB, with Northern Virginia being my home jurisdiction. For those of you who don't know, the CTB is a rather large group. It is made up of a total of 17 people. Director Robinson with DRPT, VDOT Commissioner Stephen Bryce, and Secretary Shep Miller, the Secretary of Transportation. There are 9 districts in Virginia. You know, Virginia is divided into 9 transportation districts, but as Bill Cutler will tell you, there's one of them that has the lion's share of not only road improvements, budget, jobs, traffic signals, total employees, and that is Planning District 8, the Northern Virginia District. The CTB has 1 member from each of those 9 districts, and then they have 2 members who are urban at large, 1 from Northern Virginia, 1 from Tidewater, 3 rural at large members who focus on the transportation needs of rural Virginia. The 2 urban at large positions, you can probably imagine, the urban at large member from Tidewater spends a lot of time worrying about tunnels and how interstates cross large bodies of water. We don't have that problem here in Northern Virginia. I think the Roslyn Tunnel may be our biggest tunnel. a lot of what we do, what I do, is working on transit with WMATA, given that it's such a key member of our overall transit needs for Northern Virginia. I was appointed by Governor Youngkin only a few months ago. My term started July the 1st, so I've got another 3 years and 9 months left in my term. The CTB meets monthly, every month I think for December, even though I would not be surprised if we have a December meeting, given we have a lot of work we need to get done before the end of this year. We will be having a meeting of the Commonwealth Transportation Board here in Northern Virginia. It will be next May. So the CTB is kind of a traveling road show. We go all around the state, but I'm very pleased that we're going to be having a CTB meeting here in Northern Virginia in May of 2026. Another things that we're working on, just to share with you what's on our work plan, in addition to approving projects and overseeing smart scale, we also are in the process of working on something we do every 4 years, and that's adopting a statewide transportation plan called VTrans. And that was last adopted in December of 2021. And before the crystal ball drops on Times Square on December 31, 2025, we are under our statutory obligation to adopt our new plan. We'll probably do that at our November or possibly December meeting. And I would encourage you, if you've not had a chance to look at the current work in progress with VTrans, I'd encourage you to do so, particularly if you are into transportation policy and funding, because it is a conformance document that calls out statewide corridors of statewide significance. And I think if you just Google vtrans.gov, it'll crop up on your computer. But I look forward to working with these distinguished people that are up in the dais, and also with our local elected officials and the General Assembly, which I did spend a number of years representing Loudoun County in the General Assembly, as Delegate Delaney does now. So I understand how Richmond works also. With that, let me pass the baton to the Director of DRPT, Tiffany Robinson.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure working with you thus far. I'm Tiffany Robinson, Director of Virginia's Department of Rail and Public Transportation. Before we started tonight, I was talking with a few of the members on the dais about the fact that last year at this meeting, I sat here and it was my second day on the job as DRPT Director. So tonight, I know a little bit more about what I'm talking about, and it's been a pleasure talking with so many of you before this meeting, and I look forward to doing so afterwards as well. I hope that everyone here already knows the mission of DRPT, but we really work to connect and improve the quality of life for all Virginians with innovative transportation solutions. And we do that by supporting public transit providers, commuter programs, freight rail operators, passenger rail expansion, local and regional transportation planning organizations, paratransit, and human service providers. And yes, we do provide a significant amount of operational and capital grant funding, but we also provide much needed technical assistance to our partners. We undertake a multitude of studies every year, and we perform crucial long-range planning for transit and rail across the Commonwealth. So in terms of funding, DRPT's fiscal year 2026 six-year improvement program will be allocating $7 billion to rail and public transportation across the Commonwealth in the next 6 years, with $1.2 billion of that being allocated in FY26. So what does that mean for Northern Virginia? DRPT's funding programs will be providing over $573 million in FY26 for public transportation right here in Northern Virginia. This will include $442 million in funding for WMATA, that's state funding, not federal funding, $17.4 million for VRE, $55 million in state operating assistance for Northern Virginia's local transit providers, including DASH, ART, Loudoun County, Fairfax Connector, Q, and OmniRide, $33 million in state capital assistance for Northern Virginia Transit capital projects, which, as I'm sure you know, those are vitally important to maintain and expand transit in Northern Virginia. And the impact of those dollars is really important. During fiscal year 2025, statewide public transportation ridership exceeded 144 million. That's a 14% increase over FY 2024 ridership. And much of this ridership was in Northern Virginia, with VRE and WMATA seeing huge gains this past spring. our Virginia Breeze intercity bus service, which serves several stops in Northern Virginia at Dulles, the Falls Church Metro Rail Station, and into DC at Union Station, transported over 67,000 passengers in fiscal year 2025 alone, and that was an increase of 9% year over year. In the last year, I had the pleasure of attending ribbon cuttings for a new operations and maintenance facility for Arlington County Transit and for the launch of the new OmniRide service from Front Royal and Warrenton. Tomorrow, we're excited for the ribbon cutting for the VRE station at Manassas Park. And later this month, I'll be attending the groundbreaking for an expansion facility for DASH in Alexandria. I'm so thrilled to see the progress and impact that our work at DRPT has had and will continue to have in Northern Virginia. And so for just a moment, I'd like to take off my DRPT hat and put on my hat as chair of the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority, because we have some exciting updates there as well. The Commonwealth has committed more than $4 billion over the last 4 years to capital and rail infrastructure improvements in Northern Virginia, the largest concentration in the entire $6 billion Transforming Rail in Virginia initiative. And I'm sure many of you have seen the construction around the Long Bridge. This one single investment of $2.7 billion for the new Long Bridge will double rail capacity, alleviate critical congestion between Arlington and Washington, D.C., and remove the largest capacity constraint on the entire I-95 corridor, accommodating increased passenger and freight rail traffic. While Long Bridge is the landmark project, we're also constructing essential new track infrastructure, replacing rail bridges, and adding grade separations along the most heavily traveled corridor sections. And we're just getting started, but the completion in 2031 will be here before you know it, so be on the lookout for lots of construction in the coming years. And finally, I'll switch back to my role as DRPT director. It is hard to believe that we will be opening our annual grant application round for FY27 in just a little over a month on December 1st. So this meeting is really perfect timing, and we at DRPT are preparing for this new grant round. So I look forward to hearing from everyone tonight about your transportation issues that are most concerning to you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And now, NVTA Chief Executive Officer Monica Backman.
Thank you, Bill. Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to acknowledge I have some authority members here, 2 on the panel, Bill and Tiffany, and 2 in the audience, Chair Jefferson and Delegate Delaney. Randy Minshew is a former authority member, but we love Randy. So the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, for those who are unaware, we are a regional entity created in 2002, but we didn't get funding until 2013. And you probably heard me say this before, people don't care what you do when you don't have money to do it. However, since the funding bill passed, which was HB 2313, we have been fortunate enough to invest $5 billion on 380 regionally significant multimodal transportation projects. We fund all modes of transportation except air travel, because the law requires that the money stay right here in Northern Virginia, where the taxpayers are paying into the funding pot. And when we fund these programs in our 6-year funding program, which we are currently doing our 8th funding program, we received, now if you didn't get your application in, it is too late, but we received 26 applications requesting $1.3 billion. What I tell everyone, we are doing our financial analysis now, but I can tell you we don't have $1.3 billion. That's why collaboration with all of our partners is critical. But when we do our funding programs, we also do an economic impact analysis, because we know transportation has a direct impact on quality of life. We have people who cannot get to their jobs, or they have to live way out because that's where they can afford to live. And how do we improve that? So our investments have resulted in the creation, or soon to be created, 43,000 jobs. And why is that number important? These aren't jobs that come to the region, you do the construction, the project is open to traffic, or the procurement is done, and you leave. These are jobs that stay right here in the region. And that also means $7.5 billion in economic return. So people spend money here, it stays right here, and it's a positive cycle. Now, you heard about VTrans. You heard about Visualize 2050. Well, we too have a long-range transportation plan. And I would like to put it out here. We do coordinate and we do collaborate. But we at MVTA, we're in the process of updating our long-range transportation plan. We call it transaction. The current one is called transaction. The one before that is called transaction. So you can follow the theme. The current transaction was adopted in December of 2022. We adopt that plan every 5 years. So for us, we anticipate adopting the next round of transaction, and I believe the request for responses to the RFPs are due tomorrow. So again, if you didn't get it in, I'm sorry. But this transaction, we anticipate adopting in December of 2027. Why does the long-range transportation plan for us matter? It matters because legally we can only fund projects that are in that plan. The other thing about our long-range transportation plan, it is fiscally and geographically unconstrained. So you will see projects in the District of Columbia. You will see projects in Maryland, because when you are commuting, there are no such things as jurisdictional boundaries when we are commuting. I talked about the 6-year funding program that is underway. And again, the whole goal is to hit our core values: sustainability, equity, and safety. But we have to do all of that under the guise of reducing congestion. And what I always say is there's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to solving transportation woes in Northern Virginia. The last 2 points I will make: we adopted a BRT, Bus Rapid Transit, because we speak in a lot of acronyms, Bus Rapid Transit Action Plan, again, working with our regional partners. That plan identified 23 potential routes. You will see 28 routes, but 5 are currently underway. Ms. Mattice has the Envision Route 7. There's the Richmond Highway BRT, or as Fairfax calls it, the 1. But there are other 5 other lines underway. And then we want to expand upon the $880 million we have invested in BRT. So again, we want to make sure that we are hitting our targets of multimodal, because there's no one-size-fits-all solution. This region is urban, rural, and suburban. And lastly, because I see Tiffany in the back, I have to acknowledge the Regional Multimodal Mobility Program, and that can be a tongue twister for me. But for those of you, if you came in this front door, and I don't know about the other doors, but if you came in the front door, you saw the table where you had the Go My Way app. This is a long time coming. The goal of ARM3P is really to look at ways to get people out of their single occupied vehicle and make different travel decisions based on artificial intelligence and other information. You use the app. Please download it if you haven't done so. Use that app and it can tell you, hey, I want to go from point A to point B. How does that facility look? Should I delay my trip? Should I take an alternate route? And you may just get a prize. So with that, thank you.
I'm waiting for that prize. No. Darn it. Well, I hope you all download that app. So I'm Kate Mattice. I'm the Executive Director of the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission. And really, when you think about NVTC, we really are the Transit Commission for here in Northern Virginia. We represent the cities and counties that fund WMATA. We are also the co-owners of the VRE, and I'm excited to see Dallas here to tell you about the exciting things that are happening there. But another thing that we do is we work with all of our local bus systems to help them really work all together in an integrated network. And it's really remarkable, but every single week in Northern Virginia, 2.1 million people are taking transit. And actually, if you looked not even a year ago, it was at least, I don't know, we're not going to get the math right and folks are going to get upset, but I remember seeing a 1.7 and now we're at 2.1. So people are moving, and they're moving more and more through all of our, whether it be our local bus systems, through Metro or through VRE. So tonight, I actually did want to focus on 2 of our programs that we actually highlighted outside, really specific projects that are happening here in Planning District 8. So first and foremost, I want to talk about our Commuter Choice Program. That's an innovative program that we've had around since 2017, where we have long-term agreements with the Commonwealth of Virginia to receive toll revenues from I-66 inside the Beltway, as well as I-395 and 95. And the thing that's really remarkable about this is we actually have the ability to take those funds and competitively select projects that can help people have alternatives to taking those express lanes in their own car. So many of the things that we've been able to fund include new bus lines, second entrances to metro stations, additional platform space over at VRE, bike share, getting people over to metro stations, and some fantastic long-haul bus services by providers like Loudoun County, Fairfax Connector, and OmniRide. So right now, the I-66 program is open for applications. And so let me tell you a little about who's eligible to apply, but many will benefit from it. So our local cities and counties and their transit systems are the ones that are running along I-66 are the ones that can apply for projects. And this round of projects can include capital, so things like buying buses or doing these extra platforms and things like that, or even we've funded park and ride lots in the past, or even the operations of transit, which has been incredibly successful on this program, because if you want people to be moving on transit, you need to pay to operate the transit. So to date, and since 2017, we've invested more than $212 million on the I-395 and 95 corridor and the I-66 corridor. So of that, about $140 million has actually gone to brand new or even more frequent bus service, which has been an incredible opportunity to move many more people through that corridor. So the other thing I want to talk about is our Envision Route 7, and thank you so much, Monica, for mentioning it. It's actually a really exciting, it's a bus rapid transit opportunity that is on one of the busiest bus routes in Northern Virginia. Route 7, from Tysons all the way through to Alexandria, has actually the highest ridership of all bus lines in Northern Virginia. So we have a ton of folks who are moving at it. And what we want to do is we all want to identify ways to make it better and more effective for folks so they can get through that corridor. So right now, we're looking at a couple of different things. What are some things that we can do today? Can we do some things perhaps with VDOT and with our localities to do some amazing things with signals, bus signals that allow our buses go through? Or there are other opportunities perhaps as our localities partner with the authority to find other sort of spot improvements that can move folks through that corridor. But the other thing we can do is actually look at long-term major capital opportunities. Perhaps there's a chance for some dedicated bus lanes. And again, those are the things that we're exploring right now. So right now we are actually doing a public engagement from Seven Corners down to Alexandria to really dive in to understand how people can move through that part of the corridor. That is actually the last part of our planning to really understand, again, what are the things that that community needs the most. And so right now we actually just had a public hearing, or sorry, I should say an open house, right in the Culmore Library earlier last week. It's only Monday, right? We had a fantastic turnout from the community, and we currently have the opportunity to provide public comments. I know outside at the table we had the chance for people to put in some comments online, and that's actually, we're going to be accepting that feedback all the way through November 3rd. At novatransit.org is our website, and we are definitely looking to understand better about how we can move people through that corridor. And so after that, the next step will really be to dive in and understand, again, how different design opportunities along that corridor can best move people and move the traffic, again, through that incredibly popular transit corridor. Now, before I go, I do want to mention some work that is going on with our local governments as well as our General Assembly members. And I know I have a couple members of the SJ, actually I have more than a couple. I have at least 3 members of the SJ28 subcommittee that was put together by the General Assembly. And that is really to dive into the long-term financial health and sustainability for all of our Northern Virginia transit providers. And so one of the things I think that's important to understand is, again, we've talked about this immense growth in ridership, whether it be Metro or the rebounds we've seen with VRE and with OmniRide, but also with our local bus systems, which, by the way, have the highest ridership in 10 years right now. The economic pressures of inflation, supply chain for even doing things like buying buses or train cars, as well as just in general, the flattening of many of our revenues, whether they be local or regional or statewide revenues, they are not meeting the needs. So this important subcommittee has been meeting over the last 2 years to identify both what are the needs as well as what are some opportunities for revenue, whether it be at the statewide level or here up in Northern Virginia, that could fill this gap. So that work is happening right now. The SJ28 subcommittee is meeting tomorrow morning to really dive in to understand the final needs for all of our localities' transit systems. And I should also add, including WMATA on that. And then right after, in November 5th, if I'm going to get the date correctly, that's actually where they're going to be putting together recommendations for the General Assembly potentially potential action. So again, watch that space for SJ28. There's a lot of efforts coming in the next couple of weeks that really look at providing a long-term and sustainable solution for all of our transit systems. So thanks. Last but not least.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you very much. Wow. I think Tiffany has me beat last year at 2 days, right? I'm 12 days in, and I learned about this engagement on Thursday. We're good. So, but start with that. First and foremost, I'm honored, truly honored, to be here this evening with the leaders of People Moving People, because that's what we do, right? That's what we're all here about, right? So think about that. Secondly, I do want to thank. I look down this table, right, and I look at all of the partners here with us, right? We'll be together tomorrow to celebrate our success at Manassas Park, but these are our funding partners, and without them, our mission cannot be achieved. And it's very important to us to recognize that and the role we play in the in the transportation system in Northern Virginia. It's an important role. It's a very important role, if you ask me. One party not represented here really is our host railroads, and without them, there would be thousands more trucks on the interstate. So think of that. They also play an important part, and rail in general plays a very important part. So thank you all for having me. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for your support. VRE has a very large stable of projects. I won't go into a lot of details, but we can march down the corridor. You know, L'Enfant, 4th Track, and the new station improvements, replacing 6th Street Bridge and all that's going on in the district. Then Crystal City project, relocating our station there as well. Alexandria station improvements and King and Commonwealth bridges, very big project. You may have seen that one came out to our board last week, $100 million project that we are excited to get started and very soon. And then in addition to that, Franconia Springfield in concert with the bypass and other 3rd Track programs that are going on there as well. The list goes on and on. It's you know, Tiffany mentioned some numbers there, but VRE projects alone are over $500 million that support and complement the TRV program. So we're very excited about all of this work, and it is we've had a tremendous amount, as cadence has been for the last 5 or 6 years, 1 or 2 project deliveries every year, big projects for us and getting bigger every year. We're very excited about it. The projects I speak of are important to us because every one of those projects makes our system either safer, more efficient, or more convenient, and some of them do all three. And that's important to us: safer, more efficient, and more convenient to the passengers we carry and the people we take off the interstate. Those projects are numerous, but they do complement. I want to make a point. The VRE removes about the equivalent of a lane of traffic on both I-66 and I-95 every morning at rush hour. Think about what if we weren't here removing that traffic and bringing those passengers into the city. So with that, we mentioned a couple of things: TRV, Long Bridge, Transforming Rail in Virginia, Long Bridge project. So many projects are built around that. That is the key. I've referred to the Long Bridge as the crown jewel, right? It opens up this project. This project opens everything for VRE. Our System Plan 2050 is built on, we mentioned long-term plan, long-range plans, built upon Long Bridge being completed and what that does for VRE, transforming us from what is a traditional commuter rail service to a more regional rail service, more frequent service, nights, evenings, we'll say weekends, more frequent headways, lots of benefits to that because of what that brings to us. It cannot be understated. So I was told to be brief, and I am last, so thank you very much.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much.
You can have this one back.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Oh, well, actually, I'm going to go last. So the Virginia Department of Transportation is proud to serve our Northern Virginia citizens, and I do want to thank, by the way, the staff of all of the agencies that are participating today. They're out in the lobby and the hallway, here to engage in more one-on-one conversations. Thank you to all of you who have helped make tonight happen and our programs for these agencies all throughout the years. Virginia Department of Transportation staff as well, thank you. And here in Northern Virginia, of course, we're serving 4 counties: Arlington, Fairfax, Prince William, and Loudoun. That's a population of 2.5 million people. It represents 30% of the population of the state of Virginia. We're also almost 40% of all the jobs in Virginia are here in Northern Virginia. That's per the Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce. And according to the Senate Majority Leader in the General Assembly, the Northern Virginia economy provides about 50% of the state's tax revenues. So we recognize keeping Virginia moving through all modes is very important, not only to the citizens that live here, but also to all the citizens in the Commonwealth who reap the benefits of this powerful economy that we want to continue to help grow and help the region thrive. So some of the things that you see out here for VDOT right now, this calendar year, we're looking to open up the 495 Northern Extension project. This will increase the size of what we believe is the most sophisticated managed lanes network in the world. 92 miles we already have here in Northern Virginia. We're going to extend it up to the American Legion Bridge. And I will continue to invite my friends in Maryland to consider how this could benefit them as well. And as the folks on this panel know, this is not just about highway improvements. The Express Lanes network is a conveyance system for express buses, and we have 2,500 bus trips, free bus trips every year, every day on our Express Lanes network. We're looking to continue to increase that. We also have some portion of the revenues provided annually that support all sorts of transit assets and opportunities. We actually projected out that over the life of all of these P3 agreements in Northern Virginia, we're looking at possibly $5 billion over the next many decades going towards transit interests, which is great for everyone. We help support access to and from VRE stations, Amtrak, Metro. We don't operate any Metro stations, but we're very interested in the success of Metro Rail and the 32 stations that are here in Northern Virginia, and we often have projects that help support them. We're very proud of the bus networks, all of the different bus transit systems that operate on VDOT roadways, and we work to help make those as functional as possible. And obviously, we are home to the 3 largest school systems in Virginia. Fairfax, Prince William, and Loudoun, 1, 2, 3 largest, and Fairfax County's school bus fleet is the largest school bus fleet in the nation. And so they are also relying on the Virginia Department of Transportation to keep these roads, trails, and sidewalks open for mobility. So also you see other projects like the Fairfax County Parkway at Pope's Head Road underway. I would have warned you that there is a camera out there that is going to give you a ticket if you're over the speed. So please always be traveling at the proper speeds and paying attention to what's going on around you for the safety of yourself and others. VDOT will not get the funds from those tickets, but that is something that's out there that's helping make it safer for our workers as well. Also, Route 29 under construction right now, reconstruction between Fairfax and Centerville, and of course all of these projects that I just mentioned include sidewalk and trail improvements, sometimes parallel to the roadway, sometimes in the case of 495 next, it's parallel, but also on the overpasses. So we're providing all sorts of mobility connections. And as Monica said, it's a multimodal solution that's required, and that is what we do with all of our projects. So I want to again thank the VDOT staff, thank the staff of all of these agencies that are participating tonight and helping our community continue to grow stronger. With that, I would like to take a moment and recognize and give an opportunity for some of our elected officials in the audience to speak. If you'd like to come over to the microphone over here, because this, as I said, we're streaming this meeting and recording it. So first, we have the chair of the Prince William County Board, Deshandra Jefferson. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, thank you so very much. The Prince William County Department of Transportation, or PWC DOT, appreciates this opportunity to provide comments to the transportation agencies critical to advancing a safe, reliable, multimodal regional network in Northern Virginia. The Commonwealth Transportation Board, through its agencies, the Virginia Department of Transportation and the Department of Rail and Public Transportation, oversee the most critical transportation funding programs in Virginia. So many of my comments all of my comments will be directed towards this particular agency. Technical assistance in planning studies through STARS and pipeline programs has been instrumental in developing competitive applications and advancing projects in Prince William County. This includes Route 29 Corridor Improvements Project funded in Smart Scale Round 6, which will implement multimodal and operational improvements along a corridor of statewide significance. PWC DOT supports the program's emphasis on small-scale, lower-cost alternatives in planning analysis. However, the department respectfully requests that this emphasis not exclude consideration of larger-scale solutions that may offer greater long-term cost-effectiveness and regional benefits. With funding 6 years into the future, most smart-scale projects will not be completed before the traffic horizon year used to assess congestion and future growth projections in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. PWC DOT believes it is important that planning processes retain the ability to evaluate and advance larger-scale alternatives that may better address the region's long-term transportation needs. The focus on smaller-scale alternatives has been fueled largely by the need to reduce costs to be competitive, a major challenge for Northern Virginia applicants. The cost of doing business in Planning District 8 is high and made higher by the contingency rates and other cost estimating policies that have been implemented. The overinflated project costs negate benefits to the point that projects such as Prince William, Old Bridge Road / Gordon Boulevard or Route 23 intersection improvements project can score 4th highest for overall benefit and plummet to 111th place when the cost is factored in. This illustrates a structural disadvantage for jurisdictions in high-cost regions, where the same design and construction standards result in disproportionately higher estimates and reduced competitiveness, regardless of overall benefit or need. Many of the challenges stem from what PWC DOT considers to be a misalignment between application project scope and readiness requirements, and when funding is available. Programming funds in earlier years will reduce risks and is more aligned with the program's growing focus on cost-effective midterm solutions. Alternatively, if programming continues in the last 2 years of the 6-year improvement program, PWC DOT respectfully requests further consideration of reducing project cost readiness requirements to allow the project to be responsive to changing community, land use, and economic development needs. Additionally, PWC DOT is concerned that the frequent changes to program policies and required documents and the abbreviated schedule for implementation create moving targets and confusion in the process that is counterproductive to improving application quality. Programs such as Smart Scale require considerable time and resources to meet requirements, and we ask that consideration be given to this in future program updates to better support project readiness. Prince William County DOT is grateful for consideration of these comments, which is intended to offer constructive feedback as part of an ongoing dialogue and coordination with our transportation partners to enhance mobility and quality of life in Northern Virginia. The past 5 years have been marked by significant uncertainty in transportation, but in 2025, the region's historic rush hour patterns returned to the Washington, D.C. area, which was ranked first in the nation for the longest average commute times and weekday peak period delays. While congestion may not be back to normal, traffic fatalities and serious injuries remain unacceptably high. Transit ridership has not fully recovered. Transportation infrastructure is increasingly vulnerable to weather events, and uncertainty remains in the future of transportation funding and legislation. Addressing these mobility challenges will require a data-driven, strategic, coordinated regional approach, and PWC DOT looks forward to continuing to work with elected officials, the community, and our professional colleagues on innovative solutions. Thank you so very much for this time, and it is a pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair Jefferson. Appreciate that. Next, Senator Danica Roem. Oh, I'm sorry. Senator left? Okay. Well, appreciate the senator was here earlier tonight. Next, Delegate Delaney. Thank you so much for being here, Delegate Delaney.
Good evening. I'm Carrie Delaney. I represent the 9th District, but I'm also the chair of House Transportation, the House Transportation Committee. And so it is really great to be able to hear from you all tonight. And I won't take too much time away from the listening part. I know we are in good hands here. I've had the opportunity to work with most of you over the years and trust that we will be able to have a really robust conversation on the matters that I think matter, that are of most interest to the people that I have spoken to on issues as it relates to multimodal transportation solutions, appropriate funding to make sure that we are able to address the growing needs of transit and transportation solutions in the Northern Virginia region, keeping in mind how that all fits in with the greater Commonwealth's needs. So I don't want to take too much time with remarks here tonight other than to just say thank you for your work. We in the General Assembly look forward to continuing to listen and to work with you and to use your expertise as we guide our legislative agenda moving forward. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Delegate Delaney. Are there any other elected officials in the room who would like to speak right now? That is all I have on my list. All right, so now we'll move to the other part of the listening session from our citizens. Just a reminder that it is 3 minutes per turn. We do have a little timer over there. I'm not quite sure what noise it makes when it gets to 0, but we'll all find out together, maybe. But we do want you to use up as much time within that you would like to make your comments. We have 7 citizens signed up. If you would still like to speak and you haven't signed up already, please go out to the lobby and sign up there. So our first speaker is Frank Putzu. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And thank you for pronouncing my last name perfectly. It happens so rarely. Thank you, sir. Hi, good evening. I'm Frank Putzo. I'm from Alexandria, Virginia, and there's a project I wanted to talk to you about in particular. In 2018, NVTA approved a $12 million grant and a $75 million grant in 2020 to Alexandria for the Duke Street Transitway, locally called Duke Street in Motion. Little or no progress has been made since 2018, so we submitted FOIAs to get the status. Through July of 2025, $1.63 million has been reimbursed from the original $12 million, $1.6 million of that on community engagement, $30,000 on engineering and design. But community engagement started 3 years after the 2018 grant, and it concluded 2.5 years ago in March 2023. What sparked our interest was VDOT suspending a Smart Scale grant to Alexandria in May 2025 for failure to perform and failure to improve on projects VDOT funded. We thought it was referencing Duke Street, but in fact it was quite a few projects that were over budget and behind schedule. We are here as taxpayers very concerned about the Transway project and squandering tax dollars. There are serious budget and design problems. There is a total of $87 million in grant funding committed. Alexandria estimated costs at $114.8 million in 2018, and that number has not been updated. With inflation, it's likely much higher than $150 million. Where is this money coming from? Are they expecting you to pay for that? There has been scant progress on this project. At a November 2024 City Council meeting, Alexandria transport officials testified that the city was at, quote, 10% design completion. The vice mayor expressed frustration and alarm, stating, we were at 10% design completion 3 years ago. The FOIA revealed Alexandria is planning to redesign its landmark section as of September of 2025, which is outside the scope of the grant. There's been no public disclosure what the redesign is, why it is being pursued, or costs 7 years after the original grant. There is a serious deficiency of public support for this project. Alexandria did state in 2018 in its application that risks include public opposition. They were correct. Alexandria conducted 2 community engagement efforts in 2021 and 2022, years after the grants were approved, by which time, of course, it was too late for that engagement to matter. The 21 survey showed 64% identified reducing congestion as the top priority, and 26% supported dedicated bus lanes. Because the first survey did not produce the desired result for BRT, commissioned a second survey in 2022, which aligned with those of the first. We are requesting really three things from VDOT, Secretary of Transportation, and NVTA. One, please compel Alexandria to disclose all financing and costs associated with this proposal as of today before any further funds are expended. If there is a new application, please compel community engagement before submitting it to NVTA, and we request that NVTA hold a public meeting before deciding whether to approve. And three, please deny reimbursements until there is a fair and independent review of the project to assure tax dollars are being stewarded appropriately. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Bill Rossello.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. My name is Bill Rossello. I'm president of the Seminary Hill Association in the city of Alexandria. I'm speaking on the same topic. In my role, I have spoken on behalf of our 5,000 residents before our city council and our transportation commission, questioning the efficacy of this project, the Duke Street BRT project. Seminary Hill is a community, it's one of the communities that will be most directly affected by this. So we obviously very interested. But I'm here tonight speaking about the financial aspects of the project as a taxpayer and as a former member of Alexandria's Budget Committee, a city board on which I served for 7 years. The Duke Street BRT project seems headed for significant financial challenges. One reason, as Frank said, is that it's several years behind schedule. As a result, the original advertised cost of $87 million is probably not a reliable figure anymore. In fact, the city's own quarterly capital project report showed a total cost of $116 million from 2020 to 2023, and then it went back to $87 million. So frankly, we're a little confused as to what the actual cost was supposed to be. But as we all know, construction costs have increased dramatically in recent years. Since 2020, the National Construction Cost Index has increased by over 40%. Which means that the actual total project cost today is likely a whole lot more than either the $87 million or the $116 million. It could be as much as $164 million today. And by the time construction begins, that's now projected for 2027, it's likely to approach maybe as much as $180 million, leaving a funding gap of maybe as much as $90 million. So what you should know is that years of delay in investing in Alexandria's infrastructure by city officials, along with a very significant increase in our population, has fundamentally altered the financial outlook for the city. In fact, from 2014 to 2024, the city's population increased by 15%, and its total debt tripled. So these are both according to the city's own consolidated annual financial reports, which are audited. The city is now at a point where the 10-year capital budget is testing its own debt limits for the first time. Yet the city's capital needs for school construction, flood mitigation, storm system updates, fleet replacements, you can go on, have never been greater. And the trends of population growth and capital pressures are projected to continue well into the future. So the question is, where will the money come from to address the inevitable funding gap on this project? And it doesn't appear that the city's going to have the capacity to do that on their own. So anyway, thanks so much for allowing us to speak tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Our next speaker is Owen Curtis.
Thank you and good evening. I'm Owen Curtis, the president of the Seminary West Civic Association. Some 600 homes adjacent to North Beauregard Street and Seminary Road, the neighborhood most affected by another one of the BRT projects called the West End Transitway. But I speak this evening more as a retired transportation planning engineer who's consulted on multimodal transportation issues and projects for more than 50 years in Northern Virginia, the DC metro area, and around the country. And I served our city for 12 years on its Transportation Planning Board, 6 as chair, and was on the task force that started the fabulous Dash bus system. So while my commentary may seem like it's against specific transit proposals tonight, I have a very pro-transit view, as long as it's the right transit service that best serves its potential ridership. I'm going to make a few points, and I'll be submitting more detailed comments in writing. The NVTA BRT action plan identifies 5 levels of BRT, and there's nothing that concerns me much about the basic BRT, as long as it's carefully planned to address well-defined problems and needs and doesn't result in poorer service for potential riders. But once those BRT concepts get more elaborate and get to the notion of dedicated lanes, especially new construction such as the 2 dedicated lanes proposed for the median of Beauregard Street, then we're no longer just talking BRT. What you really have here is fixed guideway transit. And in our dynamic metro area, I believe that's problematic. And we've seen that as the world has changed in the last few years. The planning for the West End Transitway started some 17 years ago, and the world has changed incredibly much since then. Gone are nearly all the offices along the West End Transitway route in adjacent areas such as Skyline and Bailey's Crossroads. The neighborhoods have aged. Some of us are retired. The potential riders have become more blue collar. They're not white collar workers going to an office in the regional core. And though they have radically different commuting patterns and needs, the internet has eliminated, as you know, commutes for many office workers, et cetera, et cetera. So we saw, for example, recently WMATA do a complete revamping of their bus service in the corridors where the West End Transit is proposed. But you're talking about potentially building a fixed guideway system there. Why are there no Metro bus routes on Beauregard anymore? Because things have changed. So building expensive dedicated lanes for one Dash bus route with 8 buses an hour, to me, is a potential heavily wasted investment, as today's patterns are sure to change, and these fixed lanes cannot change to meet those future evolving needs. And the West End of Alexandria clearly is evolving, and what the needs of its residents and retail workers will be over the next few decades will undoubtedly change from where we stand today. So it makes sense to take a look at basic BRT to serve the heavily immigrant community there, find out what their specific commuting needs are, watch the mothers and fathers take their kids on the Dash bus to and from school, grab their groceries and the kids and go back in tow. It's time to rethink. Let's step back, take a deep breath. Let's work in great detail with the community. Because, yes, you can improve transit, but we don't need dedicated bus lanes. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments and your time tonight. Our next speaker is Douglas Stewart.
Good evening. My name is Douglas Stewart, and I'm speaking tonight for the Sierra Club Great Falls Group, the local chapter of the Virginia Sierra Club with more than 3,400 members in Fairfax, Loudoun, Prince William, and Fauquier counties. First, we want to thank you for taking a step back to review more options for the 495 South Side project. There are better solutions available for our community's environment and climate than the ones VDOT has analyzed so far. The Alexandria, Huntington area, and Route 1 neighborhood and other communities in the 495 South Side corridor are getting more and more walkable and transit-oriented. Simply adding more lanes for cars in this corridor makes little sense when we could better use the existing roadway for improved bus service. There are solutions we can put in place now with much less cost and much more utility for existing residents than simply widening the highway. We already know that highway widening does not relieve traffic and increases air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. We need alternatives that better serve our communities and advance rather than hinder our plans to reduce pollution and global warming emissions. Second, we want to commend NVTA, VDOT, and our local governments for increasingly investing in trails, sidewalks, and bike facilities. There is so much we can do through smaller bike and pedestrian connections between our neighborhoods activity centers, and transit stations. We're pleased that more of these projects are being advanced in NVTA's and VDOT's 6-year plans. These include the proposed shared use path on Haycock Road between Broad Street and downtown Falls Church and West Falls Church Metro Station, and the proposed rail trail in Manassas along the VRE line into Bull Run. These kinds of connections provide a big bang for the buck in helping residents get to where they need and want to go without having to drive. And in that vein, we also want to commend VDOT and Fairfax County. I think this district is the only one that has the kind of repaving program that we have here, where we actually incorporate bicycle and pedestrian improvements and road diets into the repaving schedule. And as a resident of Fairfax City, I'm able to bicycle to the government center, Fairfax Government Center, because of a road diet on Government Center Parkway, and I'll soon be able to travel all the way there on Government Center Parkway because they're extending into Fairfax City. And I also know there are other repaving projects going on around there that are going to make that area much more bicycle and pedestrian friendly. And those are the kind of projects that really have a great bang for the buck in getting people around inexpensively and healthfully with less pollution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Regina, would you mind helping with the microphone? Our next speaker is Rob Whitfield. Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody have the extra microphone? Here it is, coming up the back here. Our next speaker is Rob Whitfield. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Rob Whitfield with the Fairfax County Taxpayers Alliance Board, and I've been coming to transportation meetings for 30-plus years. And I was involved for 20 years on the board of the Committee for Dulles. Dulles Airport is the primary economic generator for the whole Northern Virginia region. Recently, MWA completed its master plan update, and I saw after Labor Day that Jack Potter is forecasting a 30% increase in employments in the next 5 years. I have not heard back anything from Jack Potter about what is being done planning-wise to accommodate that expected growth, much of which is being because of delays to improvements in air traffic control systems impacting New York, Philadelphia area. So we need to get on that matter as a priority. Second, I've been going to meetings of the CTB in Richmond over the last decade, and unfortunately, it's dominated by people from southern part of Virginia. And I don't fully understand why this hasn't been addressed by our legislators, but I can tell you, for instance, in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, Senators Kane and Warner have said that this was a year-old information, that $10.5 billion has been invested in Virginia under that program. But to the best of my knowledge, only about $200 million has been invested in Fairfax County. So I've asked repeatedly for explanations of this, and I've had no response. As to the structure of the CTB itself, I suggested in 2019 that there be 2 suburban members added in addition to the 2 urban and the 3 rural. And even though Sharon Valentine thought it was a good idea, nothing has happened. And so frankly, and then as to expenditures and the cost-benefit analysis for those investments, particularly to do with WMATA, for instance, in Arlington County, the Ballston Metro Station's second entrance has been now the costs estimated at $180 million, but the ridership at the station there has gone down by over 50% in the last decade. And so, and then the other area on which I've not heard back anything is that because the ridership is much less than it was, then the whole plan, NVTA approved traction power station funding upgrades. And again, do we need that at this point? And if the money is not being spent, we shouldn't overcommit to transit projects which are not going to be built. As to the BRT network system planned, I've not seen anything like a reasonable cost-benefit analysis to substantiate the projected ridership, particularly outside the Beltway. And because the people in the Dulles corridor have already been hit for $3 billion in tolls for the Silver Line, they should be excluded from any cost obligation for the BRT network inside the Beltway and in south of Alexandria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Whitfield, for your comments and your time tonight. Our next speaker is Bill Pugh.
Good evening, Northern Virginia officials up at the front and in the audience. My name is Bill Pugh. I'm the Transportation and Climate Director for the Coalition for Smarter Growth. We advocate for walkable, bikeable, inclusive, transit-friendly communities in Northern Virginia and the DC region as the most sustainable and equitable way to provide opportunities for all and to grow. I'm speaking tonight on two regional issues, 495 Southside Project Next Steps, and also on regional transit funding. Last week, the Transportation Planning Board voted unanimously to exclude VDOT's 495 Southside preferred alternative from the long-range plan. We thank the Northern Virginia leaders that worked on the deal to ensure a more responsive project and to ensure that solutions happen in a timely manner as well. Your resolution directed VDOT and MDOT to, quote, explore project options and work with local jurisdictions towards securing a consensus on this important regional corridor. This key part, exploring project options, is something that Alexandria, Fairfax, state legislators, WMATA, and Virginia residents have all asked throughout the project study. And we see this as an opportunity in this coming year. First, there are near-term options to explore, solutions that can be piloted and help the corridor sooner than the next 6-7 years that I think is the estimate that the preferred alternative would take to be finally constructed. For example, looking at piloting peak period bus shoulder lanes, this is done in a number of metro areas across the US. The right-of-way is there. Second, boosting commuter incentives for bus carpool and other demand management strategies. The RM3PP program is kicking off soon, and this is an opportunity for VDOT and MDOT to collaborate and extend that program into Prince George's and along the corridor. Medium-term solutions, there are alternative managed lanes concepts out there, such as flexi hot lanes that better serve all commuters. And there are federal funding programs such as innovative congestion management that can help support these. And lastly, longer term, looking at future Metro Rail or advanced BRT accompanied by transit-oriented development on the corridor. These were all solutions, potential alternatives that were not considered, and we see the direction from the TPB as an opportunity to do this. We really want a year from now to come back and have solutions that the TPB and Maryland can advance, as well as meeting Virginia communities. And just lastly, on regional transit funding, thank you for your support of WMATA, for VRE support, for local transit support. As NVTC's studies show, our transit systems are the backbone of Northern Virginia and the state economy. We urge you to approve additional and long-term dedicated funding for transit operating and capital needs and scale those to inflation. And I'm also addressing this to the state legislators and other officials in the room so we can implement the SJ 28 recommendations. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pugh, for your comments and your time tonight. Our next speaker is Ken Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ken Reed. I currently live in outside Tyson's Corner, and but I served 10 years in elected office in Loudoun, including 4 years on the Board of Supervisors and 6 years on the Leesburg Town Council, and I've been very heavily involved with transportation advocacy in Virginia and also Maryland, where I lived some 25 years ago. I am very involved last 8 years in Orthodox Judaism, and so I like to go into Montgomery County, Maryland from time to time to a synagogue in Rockville. I also participate in programs in Silver Spring, but I mostly spend my Shabbats at a Chabad house in Herndon. But it doesn't matter where I'm going, I have to take the Beltway to get there from my home, which is off Route 7. And even if I have to go up to 123 a couple of miles, I'm sitting in traffic. And when the 495 next, and I don't buy the argument that it's due to the construction only, because the 495 next project, we're still going to have a funnel of people paying tolls. They're going to come dead at the Legion Bridge because of the very, very stupid decision by Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, back in December of 2022, before he actually took office, to rethink the project, which was worked on for 6 years by his predecessor, Larry Hogan, Governor Northam, and of course, MDOT and VDOT. And that decision was made when he came into office, led Transurban to pull out of the project, and that was the end of the P3. And Moore said, we need equity. Tolls are too high. They're not fair for low-income people, even though they have variable tolling in Maryland. And he wanted to rethink the project and get $6 billion from the federal government to pay for it. Well, that didn't happen. The Key Bridge collapsed then, and then he spent most of his time, as did the Maryland politicians, to get the 100% funding that was promised by the Biden administration. Please note that the Key Bridge carries only 38,000 vehicles a day. The American Legion and the Beltway is about 250,000 vehicles a day. And they have 2 tunnels that they can serve that backs up the bridge. I was in Baltimore today. Yes, traffic was bad, but it's nothing like going over the American Legion Bridge or the Wilson Bridge. And I want to thank you, Mr. Alcorn, for at least trying to get those 2 paved lanes on the Wilson Bridge open. But unfortunately, we don't have much leadership in this area anymore on roads and highways. We don't. It's not a stated policy. But the fact is that neither the governor of the state nor Shep Miller, your boss, bothered to even talk to Governor Moore or any of his people when they made that decision, especially when Transurban pulled out. And that's what I'm asking you to do, is to run it up the flagpole and see if in the closing days of this administration that he can maybe talk to the governor over there about reigniting the P3, because they have no money. They're billions in debt over there in Maryland, but yet he keeps promising MARC VRE connections and other transit boondoggles that are not going to deal with 90% of the commuter trips, which are by private car. 90%. And yet we're spending literally, I looked at this slide here, nearly half the lanes built with NVTA money is pedestrian. Pedestrian. Good Lord. So anyway, we're now number 1 in congestion, again, according to Consumer Affairs. People lose 71 days a year. They don't realize how they're getting burned by people in the state who don't want to do anything about even widening I-95 all the way to Richmond. It is a disaster. Go to North Carolina. They're widening lanes there for interstate travel. We're not doing anything. Okay, I'm sorry if I took more of your time, but I do want to say that it is not a pleasure to hear that you want to take lanes off of Route 7, Ms. Mattis, for buses, when I live on Route 7 and we need it for cars. You're doing the wrong thing. We got to have investment in highways, and there has to be a conversation with Maryland, because in 2030, MDOT is going to close lanes on the Legion Bridge to make repairs, and what's the traffic going to be like then? What's it going to be like then in 2030? Let's think ahead.
Thank you for your time tonight, Mr. Reed. Our next speaker is Loudoun County Supervisor Turner. Thank you, Supervisor Turner, for being here tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. I wasn't going to speak, and then I decided I would because I'm an elected official and I just can't pass up an opportunity to speak. I've turned into kind of a data center guy out in Loudoun County. And there's, I have heard comments, and that process and those comments, I think, are a metaphor for what we're talking about here tonight. And so let me just throw this out. It's kind of out of left field. I have begun, and we as supervisors in Loudoun County have begun to hear things along the lines of, well, Loudoun County got itself into the data center mess that it's in right now, so let them figure out how to solve it on their own. That's kind of harsh and that's simplified, but it's a matter of, that's Loudoun's problem. That's not Virginia's problem, that's Loudoun's problem. Well, now take that metaphor and move it over to where we are and what we're doing right now in transportation in Northern Virginia. And I have heard for years, that's Northern Virginia's problem. That's not the Commonwealth's problem, that's Northern Virginia's problem. Well, let me be absolutely clear. Loudoun County supports regionalism. And I sat on NVTC for 4 years, and I'm on the Transportation Planning Board now. And I can tell you, it's really good people. It's really smart people. We work together really well. You guys are doing a terrific job. We're all doing a terrific job. Let's keep up that work with a couple of themes. We need more smart scale money. We need our fair share of smart scale money in Northern Virginia. And do not take more money away from NVTA. Stop looking at NVTA like we're a piggy bank. We're not. NVTA and this regional approach that we take in Northern Virginia, of which Loudoun County is very proud to be a part, is an economic engine for the Commonwealth of Virginia. And we are being short-sighted as a Commonwealth in Richmond when we punish or use Northern Virginia as a piggy bank and view it as a one-off on the welfare of the Commonwealth of Virginia. So hats off to everybody involved in this regional process. We fully support it. Our legislative program in Loudoun County includes don't take money away from NVTA. It's a really, really important issue for us. So thank you all very much.
All right, thank you very much, Supervisor Turner. That concludes our speakers for tonight and our listening session. I really want to thank everyone who took time to come out here. And just a reminder, and provide comments, a reminder that public comments will be accepted through Monday, November 3rd. You can mail them to Regina Moore. She's here tonight, here at VDOT 4975 Alliance Drive. Also, you can email them to meetingcomments@vdot.virginia.gov. Please reference the NOVA Joint Transportation Meeting. And VDOT will send out a summary of comments to all our agencies here by early December 2025. I want to take a special moment to thank a couple of people that won't be here next year in their current capacity, a couple of retirees, long-term members of NOVA District VDOT, Maria Sinner, who's retiring in just a few weeks with 35 years, and Maria's our planning and investment manager. She started in Prince William County and came and took over the whole district. And then also I want to recognize Mr. Nick Roper, who's retiring with about 30 years of service. He's our deputy district engineer. Thank you so much, Nick, for all you've done in your multimodal focus on everything. He was our district bridge engineer and also went on to take over the rest of the district. I don't know what I'm going to do after they leave. We'll find out if I'm still sitting here next year. Meanwhile, again, thank you all. We do have the boards out in the hallways. Our staff of the different agencies are here to engage with you one-on-one for a little while longer before we got to shut down for the night. Again, thanks to all of our panel members up here. I got elected chairman during the meeting, so I'm going to add that to my resume. But again, thank you all for coming. I know some of you came from a very long way. Really appreciate your focus and your dedication toward multimodal solutions here in Northern Virginia. Thanks, everybody. Good night.